My sister stole my millionaire fiancé, but 15 years later we crossed paths again at a wedding. She mocked me, saying, "Still single at 38? Poor girl, look at me." Luxury car, handsome husband. Just then, a helicopter landed, and a strikingly handsome man stepped out. Smiling, I introduced him. "Meet my husband." My sister turned pale. I'd never imagined that a simple phone call could completely alter the course of my life, but that's exactly what happened. It was a crisp autumn afternoon in Newark, and the golden leaves were drifting to the ground. I was enjoying the stillness when my phone screen lit up with a call from an unfamiliar number. My first instinct was to ignore it. Who answers random calls these days? But something deep within urged me to pick up. When I did, the voice on the other end stopped me cold. It had been years, but I recognized it instantly. "Anna, it's Christina," she said. Her tone was odd, a mix of politeness and something else I couldn't quite place. "Christina," I replied, working hard to keep my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "What's going on?" It had been ages since I'd heard from Christina, my estranged sister. She wasn't calling for a casual chat. Her next words were like a bomb going off. "Grandma passed away," she said. I was in disbelief. Our grandmother, the one steady figure in our chaotic family, was gone. But as Christina continued speaking, I sensed there was more behind her call. Her voice carried an air of smugness that set my teeth on edge. "I just wanted to let you know," she added, her tone tinged with something almost mocking. "I'm sure you're busy with your modest life." Her words felt like a slap. I could practically see her smirking as she said it, but I refused to let her see how much it stung. "Thanks for letting me know," I replied coolly. "I'll make arrangements to come." It wasn't just her words that cut deep. It was the flood of memories they dredged up. Growing up, Christina had always been the golden child. She had our father's attention, his favor, and a natural charm that seemed to make life effortless for her. Meanwhile, I was left in her shadow, constantly striving to prove myself, but never quite measuring up. Our relationship had been strained for years, but the final blow came when she betrayed me in the worst way possible. Brian, my ex-fiancé, the man I had thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, had left me for Christina. She had used her charm and manipulative ways to steal him right out of my life. It wasn't just the end of an engagement, it was a betrayal that left deep scars. After that, I cut ties with not just Christina, but the rest of my family. Our father, who had always favored her, made it clear where his loyalties lay. My mother, though kind, couldn't mend the rift between us, so I built a life far from the chaos. I married Arthur, a caring and supportive man who works in tech. Together, we created a warm, love-filled home in the suburbs. Our daughter, Abigail, is the light of our lives. At just 5 years old, she's already a budding artist, sharing her creations on her popular YouTube channel. My life may not be flashy, but it's rich in love and happiness. Yet hearing Christina's voice again brought back all the pain I thought I had left behind. That phone call wasn't just news about our grandmother. It was the start of a storm I wasn't sure I was ready to face. The idea of returning to the family home for our grandmother's funeral made my stomach churn. It had been years since I'd been back, and the memories were bittersweet. Grandma had always been the heart of our family, the one person who believed in me no matter what. Her death felt like the end of something irreplaceable. Now, with Christina's call, it seemed like I was being dragged back into a world I had fought to escape. Over the next few days, I tried to prepare myself for the trip. Packing my bags wasn't the hardest part. It was the emotional baggage I knew I'd be carrying. Seeing Christina again was something I dreaded. Her call hadn't just been to inform me of Grandma's death. I couldn't shake the feeling there was more to it. There always was with Christina. When the day of the funeral arrived, I found myself standing in front of the old family home. It looked just as I remembered, yet something felt different. The house seemed to whisper of the past, our childhood laughter, our arguments, our dreams, and our disappointments. Walking inside, I was hit with a wave of emotions. The air was heavy with grief, nostalgia, and unspoken tension. The rooms were filled with familiar faces. Some wore expressions of sorrow, others seemed guarded, as if they had come not just to mourn, but to observe, to judge, or perhaps to scheme. As I moved through the crowd, I saw her, Christina. She stood near a group of people, effortlessly commanding their attention. She hadn't changed. Her charm was as magnetic as ever, and her presence brought back the old family dynamics I had worked so hard to leave behind. I kept my distance at first, unsure whether I wanted to approach her or if I even could, but Christina had other plans. During the ceremony, while others were delivering heartfelt eulogies, she managed to catch me alone. "Anna," she said, her smile polite but insincere. "It's been a while." I forced a smile. "Yes, it has. How have you been?" "Oh, you know," she replied, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Life's been interesting." There was that familiar undertone, the subtle digs and quiet rivalry that had never truly gone away. For a moment, we exchanged pleasantries that felt anything but pleasant. It became clear to me that this reunion wasn't just about saying goodbye to our grandmother. It was about something deeper, about confronting the past I had avoided for so long. Looking at her, I realized this wasn't just about mourning. It was about facing all the betrayals, the unresolved grievances, and the choices that had shaped who we had both become. Little did I know this was only the beginning. In the days leading up to the funeral, the tension was palpable. Memories of the past crept in, and they weren't all happy ones. I tried to distract myself with Arthur, Abigail, and the routine of everyday life, but no matter how hard I tried, the thought of seeing Christina and the rest of the family loomed over me. When the day finally came, the atmosphere was thick with sadness and unresolved emotions. The family home, with its weathered charm, was teeming with relatives and old acquaintances. The house felt almost alive, as if it were silently observing us, holding on to the echoes of our past, the laughter, the fights, and the secrets we had once hidden within its walls. As I stepped into the living room, I sensed her presence before I even saw her. Christina was there, as self-assured and polished as ever. Her refined appearance was a sharp reminder of the rivalry that had always existed between us. It didn't take long for her to approach me. Her smile, softer this time, still carried an edge of something I couldn't fully trust. "I've been meaning to catch up," she said, her tone friendly but tinged with curiosity. "It's been a while since we talked." I forced a polite smile, keeping my emotions in check. "Yes, it has. How have you been?" "Oh, you know," Christina said with a dismissive wave of her hand. "Busy, but good. I'm sure the family's kept you updated on how things have been for me." I nodded, though I wasn't entirely sure what she was referring to. The last I'd heard, Christina had been living a glamorous life in Jacksonville, filled with success and luxury. Or at least, that's what the stories claimed. But with Christina, I had learned to look beyond the surface. There was always more to her story. During the wake, She made it her mission to ensure everyone knew about her supposedly perfect life. She spoke endlessly about Jacksonville, her upscale lifestyle, and her accomplishments. It was clear she wanted to impress, to show that her life was better than mine. I watched her with a mix of irritation and curiosity. Beneath her confident facade, I could still sense the familiar layers of deception and manipulation that had defined her for years. She even brought up Bryan Adams, my former fiancé, now her ex-husband. The way she casually mentioned him, trying to seem unaffected by their failed marriage, felt like she was opening an old wound. Bryan had once been everything to me. We'd had plans, dreams, and a future together. Until Christina, with her charm and cunning, had taken him from me. That betrayal had shattered me, leaving scars I thought had healed. Seeing her now, so nonchalant and proud, was a painful reminder of all I had lost. But it wasn't just about Bryan. It was about all the pain she had caused me over the years. This encounter wasn't just about saying goodbye to our grandmother. It was forcing me to confront the past I had worked so hard to leave behind. I decided it was time to address the past head-on. I had carried the weight of her betrayal for too long, and I hoped that confronting her might give me the closure I desperately needed. As the crowd at the funeral began to thin, I spotted her standing by the living room window. Summoning my courage, I walked over to her. "Christina, can we talk?" I asked, keeping my voice as steady as I could. She turned to me, her expression unreadable at first, though her eyes narrowed slightly. "Of course. What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm of emotions inside me. "I need to understand," I began. "Why did you take Bryan from me? What made you think it was okay to destroy what we had?" For a moment, Christina's cheerful mask slipped, replaced by a colder, more calculating look. "Anna, it wasn't about taking anything," she said sharply. "Bryan and I had a connection. You just didn't see it." Her words cut deep, but I wasn't about to back down. "You manipulated him," I said, my voice rising with emotion. "You knew how much I loved him. You knew what he meant to me." She shrugged, her indifference only fueling my anger. "Bryan made his own choices," she replied coolly. "You can't blame me for that. Life doesn't wait for anyone, Anna. You need to move on." Her dismissive attitude only made my frustration grow. "You never understood, did you?" I said, my voice trembling. "It wasn't just about Bryan. It was about everything. You always seemed to have everything handed to you, while I was left struggling to prove myself." Her expression hardened, and her voice turned icy. "Don't blame me for your shortcomings," she shot back. "We all have our battles. Maybe if you'd been more assertive, things would have turned out differently." Her words were like knives, cutting into wounds I thought had healed. I wanted to scream, to yell, to lash out, but instead I forced myself to take a deep breath. "This isn't just about Bryan," I said quietly. "It's about our family. It's about how everything always seemed to work in your favor while I was left behind." Before she could respond, a group of distant relatives approached, pulling us apart. The confrontation ended abruptly, leaving everything unresolved. I stepped away, my emotions swirling. The rest of the evening passed in a daze. Faces blurred together as people offered their condolences, but my thoughts remained stuck on Christina and the painful memories she had stirred up. The next day, as the funeral came to a close, I felt a mix of relief and unease. The family dynamics were as tangled as ever, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more lurking beneath the surface. Christina's perfect life was beginning to show cracks, and I was determined to uncover the truth. I left the funeral with a heavy heart, but a newfound resolve. The confrontation had reopened old wounds, but it had also set the stage for deeper revelations. I knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face it. The days that followed were quiet yet unsettling. I kept replaying my confrontation with Christina in my mind, trying to make sense of it all. No matter how much I analyzed it, I couldn't shake the feeling that our family's issues were still deeply rooted and unresolved. My mother's apology, while kind, didn't erase the years of distance and pain. I felt like a temporary bandage over a wound that needed much more to truly heal. During this turbulent time, Arthur and Abigail became my sanctuary. Arthur, with his calm and steady demeanor, never pressured me to talk about what was weighing on me. Instead, he stayed by my side, offering quiet support. Abigail, with her boundless energy and curiosity, was my light in the darkness. She poured her heart into her YouTube channel, sharing her artwork with the world. Her joy and enthusiasm were infectious, giving me something positive to focus on. But the peace didn't last. Christina, ever the drama queen, turned to social media to belittle me. Her posts were laced with sarcasm, painting herself as wildly successful while making thinly veiled jabs at my ordinary life. It hurt to see her try to elevate herself at my expense so publicly. That's when Abigail's YouTube channel became an unexpected ally. One evening, after seeing yet another cruel post from Christina, an idea struck me. Abigail and I decided to create a video, not to directly confront Christina, but to highlight the happiness and love in our lives. We created a heartfelt video showcasing Abigail's artwork and intimate moments from our family life. On the surface, it seemed simple and innocent, but it carried subtle nods to Christina's deceptions. It was our way of standing up for ourselves without sinking to her level. The video quickly gained traction, with viewers flooding the comments with praise for Abigail's talent and the warmth of our family dynamic. It wasn't long before people started piecing things together and the narrative began to shift. Christina's carefully curated image started to crumble as viewers pointed out the inconsistencies in her stories. Her social media posts were soon flooded with criticism, and her web of lies began unraveling. As the video went viral, Christina's reputation took a nosedive. The backlash was relentless, with many questioning the personas she had spent years constructing. Meanwhile, Brian, her ex-husband, faced his own struggles. The public scrutiny surrounding their failed marriage and his involvement in the drama took a toll on his career. A critical mistake at work ultimately cost him his job as a software engineer. The combined pressure of his professional and personal failures sent him into a downward spiral. For Christina, the stress became unbearable. Her perfect facade shattered, leaving her with little sense of control. The fallout from these events was far-reaching, and it was clear that the choices made now would shape the future for everyone involved. Christina filed for divorce, severing her final connection to Brian. Their son, Gabriel, became an unintended casualty of their chaos. With Christina's life in turmoil, Gabriel was placed in a care facility, a stark contrast to the privileged life she had once flaunted. The cracks in our family dynamics deepened, forcing everyone to confront the consequences of past actions. Amid the upheaval, my mother approached me. She had always leaned toward favoring Christina, but now she stood before me with tears in her eyes and an apology on her lips. "I'm sorry, Anna," she said, her voice trembling. "For everything. We should have treated you better." I see now how much pain we caused. While her words were heartfelt, they couldn't erase the years of hurt. Still, I appreciated her honesty. It was a step in the right direction. Healing would take time, but her sincerity gave me a small glimmer of hope. I chose to keep our relationship cordial yet distant, focusing instead on what truly mattered, the happiness and peace of my own family. With the chaos surrounding us, Arthur and I decided we needed an escape. We planned a trip to an amusement park for Abigail, a chance to leave the turmoil behind and reconnect as a family. The day turned out to be just what we needed. Abigail's laughter echoed as she ran from one ride to another, her joy infectious. Arthur and I held hands, savoring the simple yet meaningful moments that reminded us why our family was so strong. The outing allowed us to step out of the shadows of the past and focus on the brightness of the present. Watching Abigail's pure excitement and feeling Arthur's unwavering presence, I realized how far we had come. This life we had built, imperfect as it was ours, and that made it more than enough. As the weeks passed after our trip, a sense of calm began to settle over us. The chaos that had once upended my life started to fade, and a new equilibrium emerged. Christina's downfall, while inevitable, had been harsh. Her constant need to prove herself, her jealousy, and her manipulative behavior had finally caught up with her. The divorce, the loss of custody of her son, and her tarnished reputation were all painful repercussions of her choices. Brian, too, faced his own battles. Losing his job left him adrift, struggling to piece his life back together. For me, though, these events felt distant, like echoes of a life I had long since left behind. My focus was now entirely on my family and the joy we had found together. Through all of this, I learned an important lesson. The past may shape us, but it doesn't define who we are. With Christina's influence fading and my family thriving, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Our journey wasn't over, but for the first time in a long while, I could look forward to the future with peace in my heart. Arthur and I worked hard to strengthen our relationship, leaning on each other through the challenges we had faced. Our bond grew even stronger, and Abigail thrived in her creative pursuits. Her YouTube channel continued to be a source of joy, not only for her, but for all of us. Watching her smile, grow, and share her artistic talent with the world reminded me of what truly mattered: family, love, and happiness. One day, I received a letter from my mother. In it, she poured out her feelings of regret, apologizing for the choices that had led to our fractured relationship and asking for forgiveness. Her words felt genuine, and I appreciated her reaching out, but I also knew that rebuilding our connection wouldn't happen overnight. I responded with kindness, acknowledging her apology, but gently letting her know that healing would require time and effort from both of us. The experiences we had endured as a family had forever changed us. My parents' favoritism toward Christina and the fallout from those decisions had taught me valuable lessons about resilience, forgiveness, and strength. I realized that healing wasn't just about time. It was about understanding and choosing to let go of the anger that had weighed me down for so long. In moments of quiet reflection, I found clarity. The pain of the past had ultimately brought Arthur, Abigail, and me closer together. Our little family had grown stronger, and our appreciation for one another had deepened. Whether it was a shared laugh at dinner or a quiet evening together, those small, simple moments became the foundation of our happiness. As summer turned to the crisp days of fall, I felt inspired to create something meaningful. I began planning a community project aimed at helping families work through conflicts and build healthier relationships. Drawing on my own experiences, I wanted to offer support and guidance to others navigating similar struggles. This initiative became my way of transforming the pain of the past into something positive. Looking back, I could see how far we had come. The tense moments at Grandma's funeral, the shocking revelations, and even the social media drama were all part of a journey that shaped who I was. Christina's story served as a cautionary tale, but it also highlighted my own strength and determination to move forward with love and purpose. As I closed that chapter of my life, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The road had been difficult, but it had also been enlightening. The future, once clouded by uncertainty, now felt full of promise. With Arthur by my side, Abigail's laughter filling our days, and my community project taking shape, I knew we were building something beautiful. No matter what challenges awaited us, I was certain of one thing: the strength and unity of our family would carry us through anything. The love we shared was our greatest gift, and it would guide us as we embraced the future together.